Welcome to the Student Success Stories podcast, the podcast where we spotlight academic success at Baylor University. Today we are joined by Rhea, and we talk about succeeding in an online learning environment. We also discuss the transition to online learning and how to manage unexpected changes in your learning environment. For this and much more, stay tuned. Welcome to the Student Success Stories podcast. We're here with Rhea. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Great. Okay, I'm excited to be here with you. Do you want to just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your major and all that?
Yeah, like Abby mentioned, my name is Rhea. I'm a freshman medical humanities major, currently on the pre-med track. I'm really excited to be participating in this podcast today.
I'm glad to have you here too. I see here on your cert you're a freshman, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And most of your classes are online?
So I had like a mixture first semester. I had a couple online and also a couple in person.
Okay. How are you liking that, or how did you like that?
I honestly really liked having like a mixed schedule a little bit. I didn't want like 100% online, and I also didn't want like 100% in person. I felt that like that deviation or that like mixture of classes really kind of helped me understand both realms of learning. I think that's really important in how we proceed on in the future of learning and everything. So I think that also was really important in the fundamental foundation of building a college education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Were you prepared at all for the online learning transition, or did it come as a complete shock?
So in my high school, I did do a lot of like online classes over the summer, but never like during the year, which was something that was very new. Having a semester of like one or two of my classes that are completely online, and even some being asynchronous, was kind of like I really had to figure out what works best with me and how I can get on top of these classes, which was that like little it wasn't, I guess it was a tad difficult in that way because I wasn't used to having classes over a long semester instead of just like a summer, like 1 month type course. But yeah, that was kind of like the adjustment issue.
Yeah, I understand that. What was like the most surprising challenge to online learning?
I guess the most surprising challenge was probably there was a lot of assignments, I think, that I was kind of not used to. There were it was kind of like structured like a real in-person class. They just kind of shifted it to online. So I think like that was the biggest challenge, was kind of managing all those assignments and figuring out when I'll have the time to do them. How can I correlate this with my schedule of in-person classes? And that was fundamentally kind of hard initially, but you kind of get used to it and you figure out what jives with you.
Yeah, a lot of the times, at least for my online courses right now, all the work will be under the weekly modules. It can seem like a lot because they're, compromising for the fact that, or they're making up for, all the time you'd spend in person, like looking at the material. So you have to make that up in your own time. So that can be a little bit hard to structure. But is there anything you wish you knew about online learning before you started?
I guess like a couple things I wish I would have knew is it's really hard to have a connection with your professors in online learning. I think that initially when going into it, I was like, oh, like I feel like my professor will email us a lot and be really, really, really engaged. And I noticed like unless I made kind of the initiative to talk to my professors, they didn't really, I guess, what's the word? Like they didn't, I guess, because it was online and there was like that distance learning. The professors kind of kept it very just like professional, like, okay, here's class, let's talk about the lecture, and then you're done for the day type thing. And I think that was something that was really, I wasn't expecting, or I expected a little bit more in that area, but I think that what was really nice was that even though that was kind of like a problem initially, me going to like their office hours and like their other like little small sessions of review, they did show their personality at those. And I think that was something that I really liked because I felt that my professors noticed that, yeah, this is distance learning, but I also don't want any kid to feel alone if they make the initiative to come and talk to me.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And I think something I learned about that was that it's imperative to look at that syllabus before you start an online course, because that's where you're going to get your information. And a lot of the times that's what you get. They're not going to be there in person to explain the syllabus to you like they do often on those first day of classes. So yeah, that's just something weird that I didn't expect. Is there anything that you found keeps you connected to your peers and professors when taking online classes, which might make that difficult?
So I think that with online classes, it is really hard, like I said, to make the connection with your peers and your professors. And I think one thing that I learned with the professors is, like I mentioned before, is just pop into their office hours on Zoom. They'll have them, talk to them, kind of just check in. I think that was something that I really found. I found to have like a really good connection with my professors when I talked to them more than just like, I don't know how to do number 5 on the assignment. Like, we talked about that, but then I talked more about like, so how are you doing? How's your day? Anything cool happened to you today? And I think like that was something that I really liked to do with my professors because they're people. They're not just like, I mean, they're people and they really want to get to know you sometimes. Um, and with peers, that one is a bit harder. And I think that what I did do is on Canvas, you can kind of see who's in your class.
Mhm.
And I did a little like search the name of someone on like social media and kind of like found them and read their bios or whatever. And if I was like, oh, this person seems really cool, I just like DM them. It sounds really creepy, but it kind of sometimes like worked in a way. I actually met my lab partner that way last semester. She and I kind of like I DM'd her. I was like, "You're in my lab. Want to be partners?" And that's just kind of how it worked. So
No, that's good. That's a good thing. Like that's amazing. A lot of people are like too nervous to like reach out and do that. They might think it's kind of strange, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do with these like Zoom classes, which are so not structured to connect you with your peers. Like it's so odd in those breakout rooms. Like it's
yeah,
super awkward, and people can just like be on their phones in the breakout room, so you don't even get to like meet them. There are people in my Zoom classes where we live in the same apartment building and I see them a lot, but we don't say hi to each other because we don't know each other. So that's just one of the weird things about online learning. Do you have any advice that you would give to people who are learning during the pandemic or in an online learning situation?
yeah. So number one, if you guys are doing great, whoever is doing online learning or distant learning, just you guys are doing great no matter what. Even if you feel like you're getting behind or anything, I mean, you're doing school during a pandemic, and that alone is really, really hard. So definitely give your guys a pat on the back for doing that because that is something that is so new to us, and you don't have to be that hard on yourself if things aren't going your way. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to be like, oh man, but other people are doing it. Why can't I? Type thing. But get those negative mentality out because I mean you are getting by, you are getting through the days, and that alone is enough. I feel, but say make sure to just take the time also to organize yourself. There's just so many things. Sometimes the Canvas calendar can get really overwhelming. You can look at that and be like, oh my God, I have like 6 things on like a Tuesday. But really, it's like you organizing yourself outside of just like looking at your Canvas calendar or whatever. Maybe implementing Google Calendar. I love Google Calendar. I swear by it.
Mhm.
It's something that I definitely implemented last semester because I was like, everything is online. Might as well have an online calendar for everything of my life
Yeah.
type thing. And that is something that really just taking the time to first make sure that your mental health is okay, prioritize yourself in these situations, and then make the time to really organize yourself, really dedicate. Like what I did the first week of school, is I just sat down with every syllabus and just wrote it all out in a Google Calendar and in a to-do list, and things that you find that will motivate you to actually get these classes done and motivate you to have fun in them. Because when you're having fun doing online learning, I mean, that it's hard to put fun and online learning together, but there's some ways that you can find a little sparks in online learning that might make it interesting, I guess.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've like enjoyed about online learning or that you prefer, compared to in-person learning?
So I guess like online learning, it was very nice because like I didn't really have to like get out of bed and like walk all the way to class. It was just very easy to time for the Zoom like 5 minutes before class starts. I know it's very I guess like it's I guess in that aspect it's very easy to just kind of like um attend your classes. I know that sounds like really weird. Like, I mean, attend all your classes even in person too, but it makes it, I guess, just a tad easier to be like, oh my god, I'm 5 minutes. Oh well, I'm not having to walk to like McCrary. Like, I can just go on the Zoom call very easily and then put in my AirPod and like kind of like listen to what's going on. And I think that was something that I really liked about online learning. I guess is just kind of like the easy accessibility, I guess. Um, and what I like about in person is, I guess, more personal connection with your peers and your professor. That was something that I really liked. And I like that I got like both worlds a little bit. First semester is kind of like that personal connection, and then also like that easy accessibility that comes with online learning.
Has the pandemic made it weird or unusual for you as a freshman? Like, what has that experience been like?
So it's definitely been interesting, I'd have to say.
Yeah.
I have an older I have an older sister who is 4 years older than me, and she gives me all this advice and everything. And she's like, yeah, it's so different. I remember when she was a freshman, she told me all these like things that she did, and I'm like, oh my god, like we could never do that right now. And a lot of the experiences that I was looking forward to obviously didn't occur, but I think it's kind of like to understand that this is a new normal. And once I like really understood that this is kind of like how life is supposed to be right now, I figured out ways to make it to make it work. And I think that it did take time, especially because I was there saying like, oh, this is not fair. Like, I want to run the Baylor line with all my freshman friends, or I want to like go to an in-person SI session. Like, I want to do these things, but it can't happen right now. And that was something that I had to learn early on to kind of then start enjoying college the way that it is now. And I think that is something that's hard to get by. But at the end of the day, once I accepted that this is kind of what college is for me, I learned to find the fun and the interesting things about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I hope that your experience was good enough, considering the circumstances. Is there anything that helps you manage the balance of in person and online, or just during the pandemic? Is there anything that helps you?
So, every single day, starting when this pandemic really happened, every single day I wake up and I kind of like get myself in the mood for the day. I really I journal a lot. I listen to a really interesting song that I like to just get myself motivated for the day. And I think that was something like when I'm making my morning coffee, I'm listening to like my favorite podcast, or I'm listening to my favorite orchestral piece or something, just to get me like really motivated to tackle on the online classes I have and in-person classes. That's something that whenever you start your day strong, I feel like it really made a difference on how I perceived all the classes I had throughout the day. And after that, kind of managing both like online classes and in-person classes, like I said, I swear by it. Google Calendar definitely is just the best tool, I feel. It really just kind of like, I put a bunch of reminders on It's like, this is in person, and it's like capitalized in person. This is online, capitalized online. And it really just helps me kind of like navigate. And I put reminders like 30 minutes before it, 1 hour before it. So I kind of know and gauge my time that way, which was really, really helpful when there was like, oh, I had like 2 online classes, but then like I had a in person in the middle. So like that type of thing, it really helped me like see that this is like what my day looks like, and really kind of like plan accordingly to how I'm going to live out my day.
Yeah, that's great advice. I know that you can connect your class calendar with the Navigate app, and that there's an option to just add it straight from there. So that's a good suggestion for anyone looking for, a calendar for your phone for all your classes, because I think that also will give you notifications like however long before your class that you would like it to be. And then the next question, it's not on the survey, but it's something that I've started to like ask people because I find that it has really interesting answers. Do you have like any stories or like tales of success or maybe failure that you've learned from during the pandemic or learning during the pandemic?
Yeah. So, gosh, there's a bunch. There's a bunch of trial and error that comes with online learning in a pandemic, and I think that that was something that I had to kind of play around first semester. Even being pre-med, I actually came from a high school that was heavy on my coursework was heavy on humanities. I was big on like taking like the Englishes, the language, but going into like college and doing online learning that's mixed with science classes, that was definitely something that was interesting, I guess, to find out what really works for me. And there were many trial and errors. I remember, like, for example, chemistry. Initially, I had no idea where to begin with this subject. I was just like, wow, okay, this is something that I've never really like encountered before. And I think like what really helped me get through that is definitely having connection with my professor. She and I really connected. She also her parents are humanities people, so she was like the only like science person in her family, and I would tell her a lot about like my experiences in that, and she like understood where I came from and helped me kind of like find ways to study for her class and to do really well in it. And I think that's what gave me to get a great appreciation for the subject as well, which is kind of like to tail back to your question. It's kind of like a failure turned into success type story. I remember not doing so well like the first quiz we had in that class, and I was like, man, am I just like not cut out for science? Like, should I just like not be doing this? But then like going to my professor's office hour, talking to her for like an hour and 30 minutes,
Yeah.
she kind of motivated me to be like, don't let like one quiz, the first one even, to like drag you down. It's online learning, you're in a pandemic, it's hard like by itself, and the subject is also really hard. And she really motivated me to kind of find a new way to perceive her subject and learn another way to actually grow to love her class.
Yeah, something I noticed when I came to Baylor that I had never experienced before in high school was that like the professors care about you so much. Like something about the Baylor professors, or at least most the ones that I've come across or that I've had, they love engaging with their students, and like they care so deeply about your success. It was so nice and refreshing to like experience, and because they're also professors, so they're like extremely passionate about the subject they're teaching too. So yeah, I think that's amazing. We're pretty much coming up on the end of this. Is there anything else that you wanted to shout out or that you wanted to talk about or let people know?
I just want you guys to know, whoever's listening to this, you're doing great. I want you to keep telling yourself that, even though if you're failing a class or something is going on in your life, you're doing great, because you're able to live a life in a pandemic. And I mean, just like living in general and during this pandemic it's hard. It's really hard. and you guys are able to do it. And that is something that you should honestly be so proud of yourself for doing, because it seems like it's just a little living, but it's not. And it's something that you guys are able to do. And online learning, I mean, yeah, it's tough and it's hard, but once again, you are doing it, and it's like, it's gonna sound cheesy, but slow and steady wins the race. It does. It really does. It's a cheesy statement to say, but just live by that, honestly, because this pandemic is slow. And you guys are getting through it. No matter if you think you're not, I think you are. And you guys got this. You really do.
Yeah, one bad test or one bad quiz or class grade does not define you. So I like that piece of advice. That's great. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. You've been amazing. You're doing amazing, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. Thank you for tuning in to the Student Success Stories podcast. You can listen to our previous episodes on iTunes, or you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Student Success Stories. Would you like to be featured on the podcast? DM us on Instagram. Thank you for listening, and sick and bears.